Hello everybody and welcome back to the second shelf. It's time for another Books Weekly. That's my once a week video in which I discuss the books that I've either finished the previous week or started the previous week. So let's get right into it, shall we? The first two books I want to talk to you about are books which I started not the previous week but the week before, and I talked about both of these books in my last Books Weekly, so I will leave a link down below if you want to have more details about the books. The first one is a memoir, Maxine Kingston, The Woman Warrior. I finished it beginning of the week, I think, and I really liked it. It's a collection of stories about her childhood as a Chinese American. Kingston was born in 1940, so it's a childhood in the 50s. And although I loved it, I realized that the experience of her being a girl in a Chinese American community was quite, foreign to me, of course, you will say. So there was a certain detachment to the book, although I enjoyed the stories, but it didn't grip me as a memoir normally does. But still, it was a very good read, and I can certainly recommend it. And the second book I finished from the week before is Susan Sontag's diary, As Consciousness is Harnessed to Flesh. That's her diary from when she was in her early 30s, that's the mid-1960s until 1980. As you probably guessed from the previous video, I could go on gushing about Susan Sontag forever. It's such a delight to read her diaries, and I realized I'm reading this also when I'm writing myself, and then I'm getting ideas and I'm underlining things and making notes. But I was thinking maybe it would be better to make a separate video just dedicated to Susan Sontag. So I'll leave you with these thoughts about the diary, and if you want to have more information, as I said before, please check out the Books Weekly from previous week. Then on to two books which I started and finished last week. The first one is a crime thriller novel, and that's B.A. Paris, Behind Closed Doors. B.A. Paris is a contemporary writer with a French-Irish background. She grew up in England, but she moved to France when she was in her early 20s, I think, or 30s, and she has lived in France ever since. Behind Closed Doors is her first book. It was published this year, so it's a new author I wanted to discover, and I love reading crime novels, so I was really excited to get on with this book. And it was, the positive things first, it was really a great genre read. It was fast-paced, it's well written, the story and the premise are interesting. The book centers around a marriage, a woman who thought she found the ideal husband, but it turns out not quite. So she lives in a marriage that is more of a jail situation, and the book develops her story of trying to get out, trying to get away from her husband. And like I said, I really enjoyed it. The narration was good, and the way it's all told from the woman's perspective, so you get really into her head. And I think, as I said on Goodreads, I probably would have given the book a 3 or maybe even a 4-star review. And then there was this major gaping plot hole at the end. Something that, if you think about it, that it can't be that way, just unravels the whole story. And it's really a pity, because otherwise it would have been a great book. And I'm also completely flabbergasted that no editor caught it, or if they did, that they obviously didn't mind. So I don't know. I can recommend the book in the sense that it's a really good read, that the story is interesting, that the writing is good, but the disappointment in the end about the plot hole makes me hesitant, obviously, to recommend it. Pity. The next book I read was a science fiction novel. As you might know, I love the genre. I made a whole video about sci-fi and my experiences with sci-fi called Sci-Fi Sensations. I will leave a link down below if you're interested. And the novel I picked for last week was also a first novel by a young American writer, Alexandra Oliva, called The Last One. I picked this book because I thought the premise was such a fantastic idea. The book describes a TV reality show, a survival show, 12 contestants, and we follow a main character, a female contestant nicknamed Zoo. They all have nicknames in the reality show. But that's not all of the premise. The other part of the premise is that while the filming goes on of the challenges and the people struggling with each other, there's a pandemic happening outside in the real world. So we follow Zoo while she is trying to complete a solo challenge. So she's alone. She's completely oblivious of the pandemic, and she interprets things she sees or encounters while roaming the wilderness, not as something that really happened when she sees dead bodies, for instance, but something that is part of the reality show. And that part of the book is really well done, how reality and TV reality, a reality show, how they mix and how they get mixed up. And the book is well written. I liked the way the story developed, but in the end it was not one of my favorite sci-fi reads. And that had mainly to do with the fact that I didn't much enjoy the flashbacks, because the book not only follows Zoe while completing her solo challenge, but in alternating chapters it describes the filming of the TV show prior to the pandemic. And I thought that was a bit tedious. It's obviously hard to describe a reality show, all those 12 contestants who have nicknames and real names, and how they are jealous of each other, and how they deal with group pressure. The idea was good, but I don't know, it just didn't work that well for me. But still, as a first novel, it is a great idea and the writing is good. So maybe it's just my subjective view that I didn't really love it in the end. And if you like sci-fi and if the premise is something that you find interesting, you should just check it out and see for yourself. And then lastly, on to two books I've started last week and which I've probably finished this weekend or early next week. The first one is Meg Wolitzer's The Wife. I've discovered Meg Wolitzer shamefully late in my life. I think The Interestings, her best-selling novel from a couple of years ago, was the first book I've ever read written by her, and I really loved it. And now I'm trying to read her backlist. I've read Bell Jar, her YA novel, I think came out last year, and I read The Position, one of her earlier books, and now I'm on to The Wife. It's quite a short novel. I'm about, I think, a third or maybe almost halfway through. It's 200 pages, and the book is about a marriage, Joe and Joanne Castleman. Joe is a famous writer, and the couple is on their way to Helsinki, where Joe will get a very prestigious literary prize. Not the Nobel, but something almost similar. And the book opens with Joanne saying on the plane that she decided to leave her husband. So so far I'm really enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to seeing what will happen, whether she will actually leave him. I have the idea that that's probably not what will happen, knowing Wolitzer. And it's quite funny at times the way Joanne, the wife, describes her husband and her marriage and how they met. So I'm really looking forward to finishing this one. And the last book I started is a YA novel. I don't read that much YA. It's not my genre for some reason, I don't know. But this one caught my interest when I saw a review, and I thought I'd give it a try. I should probably tell you finally which book I'm talking about, and that's Jennifer Bardsley, Genesis Girl. Jennifer Bardsley is also a young contemporary American author, and Genesis Girl is her first YA book. She wrote one previous novel in 2010, which was just literary fiction, but Genesis Girl, her first YA book, part of a series, as I understood. The first one came out in June, so only 2 months ago, and I chose this book because it intrigued me, the premise intrigued me. The book centers around the so-called Vestals. Those are children that are from birth until their 18th birthday kept in a cloistered environment, completely off internet, anything digital. They have no digital footprint when they are 18, and that's the whole idea of it, because when they are 18 they are auctioned off, harvested as it's called in the book, to companies, and the companies then use those completely empty blank slates as advertising props. So they will advertise for, I don't know, a truck company or fashion or something. And this idea that in our time and age, where everybody is on the internet constantly and everything about everybody can be known, that you have this society of people who are kept completely off the grid, I thought that was an intriguing idea. I can't say much else about the book. I started last night and I'm only about 10 or 15 pages in. But I'm excited to read it and venture again into YA, see whether maybe this will spark more interest in the genre. So that was it for today, for my Books Weekly of this hot and humid week in August. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye.